Hey, Jerry Durham here, and welcome to the end of the year. It's December. It's time to reflect, right? Eh, it's funny. We reflect all year long, but I guess in December we just reflect longer and harder, right? We look at the year as a whole. So that's what I want to do today. I want to been putting a lot of thought in the last couple of months is really looking at the results and the people that have put the work in and the results they've gotten that I've worked with. And I want to share with you what I've learned from them. Here's a little not so secret. The work to be done here is very similar across all practices, regardless of model, regardless payer model, regardless of practice model, clinical model. The work to be done is very similar. So it's interesting when I look back again, right? When I reflect back and look at who's been successful, and I look at the results they've achieved, right? It's for the same type of work. So what did they do to achieve the success they did versus someone else who's here? Which in turn helps me to better determine, right, the people I can be most successful with. And that's part of what I'm putting together for 2023 is better understanding of who I can help. So during the process of, right, sharing these videos, getting on the phone with you, I can make sure that we are the right fit, we are the right alignment, so that we both can be successful. When you're successful, I get to claim, right, some success based on the work you've done, right? So it works both ways. And so for me to reflect back and look at, hey, who's been successful and how isn't just an ego thing. So I can find more people and deliver results with them. Some of this may sound new to you. Some of it may not sound new at all. And I hate to do this, but man, I got to tell you, it gets back to the foundation. I've shared this before. There's no secrets. There's no new and exciting shit out there. There is a template for business success. And the longer I'm in this, the more I see, obviously there are, right? It's not one template for business success, but there is a template for business success. And the businesses I look at, the businesses I study, and the mentors I worked under, right, their businesses all are very reflective of the same thing. They understand their patient's journey very well. And the clients I've worked with in 2022 that have been successful and continue to be successful have put in the work to understand their client's journey within their business. All the entry points, the sales cycles, where they engage with the providers, how they engage with the providers, right? How cost and billing and collections is addressed, how you sell a first visit, how you sell a plan of care, how you make sure you can track your money, right? All these things, the marketing, the connection of the marketing with the sales, right? I'm starting to get a little broad there, but they understand their patient's life cycle. They understand how people come into their business. They understand the steps they take while they are in their business as a paying customer or not. Because remember, nobody is a paying customer in the practices and the businesses that we all are all familiar with until they show up, arrive, and pay. So they even understand the journey of people who don't arrive and pay, right? So they understand all the entry points, right? Social media, word of mouth, doctor referrals, past patient referrals, return new patients, all that. They understand those entry points. They understand what needs to be done to move someone from that initial step in the sales cycle to someone who arrives and pays. And they do the work to learn that. And they make sure they have the right team members. They understand their life cycle. They understand they have the right team members. Second thing I learned this year. And what I found is the most successful people, and this is what maybe should appeal to you, the most successful people aren't necessarily tied to the current people they have. And I'm not saying they fire people. I'm saying they're more willing to have a conversation around who is the best fit, who is the best culture fit, who are the people on the team currently that can help us move forward in this vision that we've set out there. And now we have to execute on, right? They are willing to find other roles and they are willing to let people go who don't fit that. And that's really hard. because they have to own up to the fact that they didn't hire the right people, that they hired too many people with the same skills. And now that they break this down and they look at really what needs to happen from a marketing, sales, and retention component, that they didn't need as many people as they had in certain roles, and they need more people in other roles. So can we shift some of those people over? A lot of times, yes. A few times, no, right? But they're willing to make the change and they're willing to own it. So the first thing I learned from my clients who got the biggest results in 2020 or got results in 2022 was, again, understanding that patient life cycle, all those touch points. The other thing I didn't mention is the connectedness of those touch points. What we do during that pre-arrival process from initial contact to arrival, they understand the connectedness of the emails, of the follow-up calls, right? Of the communications, whether it's text, whether it's email, whether it's phone calls. They understand that the language has to be the same and reflect the same, and it has to be a me conversation. And then we have to do all we can to decrease fear, doubt, and uncertainty during this process. Then they understand the connectedness with the providers. How does this conversation continue during this initial assessment, during this initial exam, during this initial evaluation? How does that then move on to get someone to agree upon to a plan of care? And then how do we make sure people that have agreed upon a plan of care complete a plan of care? All this takes connectedness all the way back up to the first phone call, and I'd argue even your marketing. And if you have a post-course of care program, which I like to call anything after the course of care, doesn't matter what, right? Some kind of monthly program or whatever it is, you have quarterly program, right? What is the connectedness of that with what was going on earlier? That's number one. Number two, as I mentioned, they understand the value of the team. And they understand the role that each team member plays specifically to this person moving through their journey within your business with this ultimate goal of completing a plan of care and then potentially, like I just mentioned, moving into a post-course of care program. But number one, they have to understand what it takes to get a complete plan of care and this coordination of the team. And they have to make sure people are in the right seats on the bus. And I would argue, like I said, the ones with the greatest successes in 2022 have had some discussions around that team, difficult discussions, and they're not willing to stick with the status quo regarding team at the result of less success for the rest of the people, less, right? Or shall we say a decrease in the movement or a slowing down in the movement towards the vision that everybody signed on to. And again, I'm not saying everybody has to be fired, but there's a good, honest conversation about, are people on the right seat? Are people doing the job? What's the deliverables? So in understanding this value of the team and where they fit in this patient life cycle, right? They're also willing to own the objectives that need to occur at each of these phases. They're willing to accept the KPIs that we use to measure each of these phases of the patient life cycle. Because it's funny, when you really apply, when you look at the objectives that need to be achieved during pre-arrival or arrival process, it starts to outline the type of person you need in those roles. By looking at, again, what are the objectives they have to achieve and what are they going to be measured by? Then all of a sudden you look around and go, some of these people here can't achieve these. Have we put them in the right role, right? So again, they're willing to own all this. Then they're willing to take action, right? I've already said that. I alluded to that at the beginning. And they're willing to hold people accountable. If you're going to take action, you have to, right, agree that these are the objectives we're moving towards, right? This completed course of care. And then the objectives within each of those phases to get a completed course of care. The objectives assigned to the individual team members. And then when you agree to take action, that means you're going to hold everybody accountable. And that's missing in a lot of places. If I know my responsibilities, if I know my accountabilities that go with those responsibilities, and I know I'm going to be held accountable to them weekly, bi-weekly, then guess what? I tend to deliver, right? And they're willing to own that and set up the structure for that. By the way, again, this goes with your front desk team, very broad term, right? The voice of the company, the face of the company, the back office admin people. This goes with your providers and any providers, PTs, PT assistants, even support staff. And then this goes to the billing team also, right? Understanding a person's life cycle in your business means you have to fucking get paid. And I've had success with clients in 2022. Every single payer model you can come up with, I've worked with in network, out of network, some in network, some out of network, hybrid practice, some completely taking no insurance at all, no out of network, strictly cash, no super bill, no nothing. Work with people taking cash, handing out super bills. Work with people taking cash, checking benefits, and then giving out super bills. So, I mean, I've worked in every type of payer model that exists. I've also worked in multiple practice models in the last year. So what I'm here to tell you is this success I share with you needs to occur at every business, within every practice. So again, the biggest takeaways that I think you need to hear that I've reflected on for my most successful clients. And by the way, I say most successful, meaning people willing to commit to the process of building a business that is scalable, right? And will therefore grow, right? Scalability comes before growth. It's the growth without scalability that causes people to implode. And we see that frequently. We grew too fast. You weren't scalable. You didn't have the processes and the people in place. So again, I say the most successful people, they just needed a nudge. They needed the information and then they executed on it. They were willing to embrace it. They had to understand the patient life cycle, all the entry points for all their people. They were willing to embrace the role of the team at every phase of this life cycle. And then they were willing to embrace holding people accountable at every step of this life cycle so that we could have delivery. They also own the fact of the shit they didn't know in their business, like their what's baffled me. By the way, here's something that baffled me the most in 2022 was the amount of people who didn't know where their dollar was today. And of course, this is a lot of the in-network clinics because, right, $1 today, if someone owes you $125 a visit, you just collect it. And at the end of the day, if there's 10 visits, we should have $1,250 here. The in-network world of having to bill insurance and collect all that. My wake-up call, by the way, I'm not biased towards any model. I'm biased towards a model that'll work in your community where you are for those people you want to serve. I'm not biased towards any model. I can help you create success in any model because it's the same blueprint. All the stuff I shared with you is the same. By the way, I've worked with people this year at one office. I work with people at 20. It still applies. And again, the thing I was most baffled with in the past year was the lack of awareness of where's my dollar bill today. Someone saw a visit, we hit bill. Where is that dollar bill today, tomorrow, the day after, the day after, the day after? This term revenue cycle management, I said that a lot in 2022 as I found out the value of that, right? It's not, nobody needs billing. Nobody needs a new billing company. Nobody needs a more billing company. They need a revenue cycle management process and system. So again, this is very important. If I understand my patient's life cycle in my business, then I have to understand where is the dollar bill I'm supposed to collect as they move through that cycle. Again, I already mentioned that with straight up cash, no nothing else. You just collect that money at each visit, or maybe you even collected it in advance. I know where that dollar is as they're moving through that cycle. In the in-network clinics, people are moving through a patient life cycle. They're having success. Are we getting paid? How long is it taking to get paid? Are we getting paid? Are we utilizing? Are we maximizing? Are we optimizing this process, the billing process during this life cycle to maximize payment? Not increasing visits, just maximizing and knowing you're getting what you should get. Revenue cycle management. That's one of the most baffling things I learned in 2022. You know, what I learned from the results of my client success in 2022 were those things. And that shouldn't sound very different than what you might listen to in any freaking video, but it's the God's honest truth. There's nothing magical about it. They applied. They committed to it and they applied. And it came down to as simple as they were willing to do the work to figure out their patient life cycle. They understood the value of the team, and then they understood the value of holding that team accountable. And then they knew where their money was during every step of that patient's life cycle. They understood the connectedness of the steps in the life cycle. They understood the need to coordinate those steps, the language, the sharing, the tasking. They understood that the current automation or technology had maybe wasn't the best for them. They understood that tech had to be supported by people and accountability, and that the tech alone wasn't going to solve any fucking problems. The tech is far more valuable when you understand where it fits in your patient's life cycle and how it fits. And texting people appointment reminders doesn't solve many problems at all without the processes of understanding the step before and the step after. All right, cool. Again, this is all stuff you can apply. You can go back through these Facebook's videos. You can watch them and apply the stuff, because what I'm finding more and more, and again, the payer model agnostic, size agnostic. The only thing about the size is, which I love about working with the bigger clinics, right? Hey, let's get you one new patient to arrive, pay, and stay a month across 20 clinics instead of one clinic. So your upside is way bigger, right? So you get a bigger result. You get a bigger bang for your buck. It's the same process. What the one clinic has to learn to get one person to arrive, pay, and stay is what 20 clinics have to learn. And now they just have to apply it across 20 clinics, right? It's no different. And so the 1 and 2 clinics, the sooner you learn this, now the faster you can scale, the faster you can grow. And by the time you get to 20, you've been leveraging this every fucking day. You guys, I think you guys have seen my loss revenue calculator. Sometimes to get some of these bigger clinics, 5, 10, 15, 20, start running those numbers, and man, I even have to pause and look at the upside of just applying what I said, understand that patient life cycle, and then connecting the dots, and making sure you have the right team members in place and are holding them accountable and measuring the right things. I hope you all had a great year. I hope you all are making a dent in your communities and helping those people you can serve. I look forward to putting more information out there for people in 2023 and actually engaging with more people and doing the work, right? Again, if you want to get there quicker, if you want some guidance, if you want some literal hand holding, if you want someone to walk next to you during that journey, come along that journey with you, right? I'm here to help. ClientExperienceCompany.com, Jerry Durham PT, just about anywhere, right? Message me here, message me anywhere. And we can talk and we can make a big dent. Doesn't matter how small, how big, we can make a big dent, right? Just remember what I said, what those the people who are most successful do. Cheers all. Have a great year. Or I should say end of year. See you next year.